Okay.
Hello, Louisville. My name is Shameka Parrish-Wright, and I am the first candidate to announce her candidacy to be your next Louisville mayor. It is past time for us to have impacted leadership at the executive level. Later today at 6 o'clock, the Minority Mental Health Project is having a panel with myself and other mayoral candidates. But my team and I thought it was important to get out there more information about how we look at mental health issues and our other issues that are plaguing our city and give you some idea of the things that we're talking about doing. It is important that you know who you're voting for and why it is important to have leadership that I represent. Thank you. This week, our city was shocked with yet another brutal public example of issues that deeply plague our community as a whole, and why this historic mayoral race, and as it should be, is so important to our city. We are all in shock, sitting with mixed emotions, and truly grateful everyone involved in this tragic incident escaped with their lives and unharmed. As a citizen of this city, a mother and a grandmother who has also survived and been a victim of gun violence, I am hurting with our city. As a current candidate for mayor, I reached out to those involved to send love and light, as well as my campaign team. We are all thankful and relieved that my colleague and his team have emerged in good health and are able again to be with their families, even after witnessing and surviving gun violence firsthand. I am truly empathetic to my colleague's situation. I am also hopeful and encouraged that this tragic and public incident will bring the much needed realism to this historic mayor's race for Louisville we are in, and the vital issues that continue to be counterproductive to the holistic, current, and future successes of our great city. Last year, according to the Courier Journal, via LMPD, gun violence represented more than 90% of the homicides in Louisville. Our homicide rates are currently at historic proportions and have been steadily rising yearly for the last decade. In 2021, shootings accounted for the majority of the city's homicides, but last year in particular, Louisville also saw 583 non-fatal shootings. 75% of the homicide victims in Louisville last year were Black, exposing a horrific and disproportionate impact of gun violence on the city's Black communities. As with recent events, we see that gun violence and violence permeates all races and all neighborhoods. In 2021, according to LMPD, our local law enforcement closed roughly 60 cases of the nearly 190 homicides in the city for a clearance rate of roughly 31%. This is why my plans include getting more people involved in the community protection we deserve so that they can focus on investigations, deterring crime, positive community engagement, and enforcement. I will host monthly meetings with my administration and the community to discuss priorities, plus what is working and what we need to do to take action. Of those homicide victims, at least 23 of them were 17 years old or younger. But even more disturbing, at least 123 children altogether were hit by gunfire in 2021. Our youth need to be at the decision-making tables to inform us about their needs and wants. This is their reality, their present, their future. I will have an accountability board made up of youth from 16 to 30, along with seniors, immigrants, business owners, and teachers throughout my term. These statistics hit to deeper issues than gun violence that are hurting our city. Poverty, racial and mental trauma, substance use, and adverse childhood and adulting issues are all associated culprits of gun violence. We may all be potential victims of the disease of gun violence in our city, but our children have to be uncompromising targets. What seems like a one-off situation to some, the reality is children in this city live with the everyday task of dodging the possibility of becoming a victim of gun violence at any moment. Every public drive-by has innocent bystanders. Some escape with their lives and some don't, as in the case of 7-year-old DeQuante Hobbs Jr., who was shot dead by a stray bullet from a nearby drive-by while eating at his dinner table in his home. Gun violence is a symptom of the overall problem. Root issues such as poverty, substance use issues, and mental and emotional trauma that lead to gun violence are the real culprits. We don't know the causes of this particular situation, nor do we dare to speculate one. What we do know of the alleged suspect and his behavior from my time working with youth as well as mental and racial trauma victims and organizers is his behavior Monday came as a total shock to everyone that knew him, worked with him, or even met him. Racial and mental trauma affect each victim differently, just as each victim affected by racial and mental trauma cope with that trauma differently. Sometimes these coping methods are healthy to that of individual, and sometimes the individual's coping methods allow them to sink further into mental health issues and crisis, often unbeknownst to the individual for a long time period, causing for these issues to affect greater and greater parts of the individual's life in a negative and unhealthy ways. Recently, Mayor Fisher and Metro Council signed an executive order declaring racism a public health crisis. And I'm thankful that happened. But we must take action now. We must have measurable steps to show that we're addressing this issue more than on paper and more than a press release. Mental and emotional stress is common within us all, and some more than others, but especially to those who are daily survivors of racial trauma. It has various ways of affecting our lives, families, and careers. Most of us still function effectively while processing stresses we deal with on a daily basis. Meanwhile, a lot of people suffer from mental and emotional health issues without being diagnosed by a professional, but find ways to function in society for a long time, sometimes until they no longer can. It's not enough to say together we get there and not take the vital measures of ensuring quality of life for all the diverse communities in our city. Everyone in our city has a certain amount of issues that they deal with, and we as Metro government, me as your next mayor, must address those. If we keep doing more of the same, that is the equivalent of God bless the rich and no one else. This campaign looks to change that historic narrative of God bless the rich and no one else. We are tired of waiting until issues like gun violence, substance abuse, mental health, and racial trauma reach rich neighborhoods and candidates before it becomes a public crisis. Traditionally, when our rich leaders finally turn their eye to these issues, they do so with a naive or inexperienced frame of reference, which in turn only exasperates these issues at best and band-aids them at worst. And this is why I want to bring those who are impacted most to the decision-making tables so that we don't keep spinning the wheel on this and we actually make decisions that impact real significant change. With this historic mayoral race, Louisville, we can change the narrative so that all communities can thrive in this great city and not just the elite or the rich ones. While we are all sympathetic to the situation of what happened on Monday, which was Valentine's Day, to one of our candidates for mayor, I would guide you to remember that my motive for running this race is not only to advocate for myself and other victims of violence and gun violence, but most importantly, for the 123 plus children affected by this plague, and to implement real changes that can effectively heal our city's ailments from multi-level traumas. When I say with me, you get 2 firsts with 1 vote, it doesn't just mean I'll pride myself on being an example for women and for Black people as the first mayor in this city of both demographics. 2 firsts and 1 vote means you get twice the amount of experience, fortitude, resilience, and wisdom in a candidate such as myself. I am a candidate that truly understands exclusion only benefits the elite, but inclusion benefits the whole, and we can only get there together. My name is Shameka Parrish-Wright, and I ask for your support to be your next Louisville mayor. Thank you.